So again back to the planning cycle and entire production planning and execution after having discussed some of the planning strategies. So we started with the forecasting and we discussed sales and operation planning, and we discussed some of the possible strategies. And then once the strategies are confirmed and sales and operation planning is done, either based on planned independent requirements, it means the data is coming from the forecast, or customer independent requirements, it means it's a make to order scenario, data is coming from the sales side. The data is then passed on. The sales and operation planning data, which is data in time buckets and product group level, is passed on to the detailed planning, to the operational planning level for MPS and MRP. So now to start with the MPS and MRP. So MPS is basically it allows a company to distinguish between planning methods between materials that have a strong influence on profit or use critical resources and those that do not. So this is a bit technical, but in order to get without going into complexities, to get a straightforward, MPS is actually in the more simpler terms, it's actually master production schedule, which is planning for the finished goods, planning for the independent requirements, planning for the customer requirements. So once the finished goods are planned, by planning the finished goods, we mean we plan for the finished goods quantities and the timing, the production of the quantities of the production and the timing of the production. If these two things have been planned, then we move on to the second planning step, which is MRP. Second operational level planning step, which is MRP. So in MRP, the system calculates the net requirements while considering available warehouse stock and scheduling receipt from purchasing and production. So MRP is actually that once you are given the master production schedule, how much quantity of finished goods is to be produced, then we actually come on to the bill of material components, individual components of bill of materials. This level, this thing that is coming from the finished goods to the individual bill of material components is known as exploding bill of material. So we explode the bill of material, we consider each and every component item of the bill of material separately, and we plan that material. That's known as material requirements planning. And the planning is also known as dependent requirements planning. So note the difference between independent demand, it is the original source of the demand, whereas a dependent demand, it is the source of demand resides at another level. So how much raw material we need, actually, since we don't need raw material for the sake of itself, we need it for finished goods. So the demand of the raw material is the dependent demand, whereas the demand of the finished goods is normally known as independent demand. So during MRP, we have the option to plan all the down level materials up to the level 0. It means if there is a multi-level bill of material and we plan MRP for the semi-finished goods, we have the option to plan automatically all the bill of materials items which are there in the bill of material of the semi-finished goods. So the output of MRP is a detailed production and or purchasing plan. So when the MRP is actually done, or even when the MPS is done, the result of MRP and MPS is either the production orders or the purchase orders, which are known as combination of two is known as planned orders. So what is the output? Output is that the output of MPS is how much to produce and when to produce. So this is a planned order, how much to produce, when to produce. Similarly, the output of MRP is how much to purchase if it is raw material and when to purchase. And if it is not a raw material, if it is a semi-finished good, then how much to produce and when to produce. So what actually is done in MRP step logically? First of all, the system calculates these. It's a 5 logical steps. First of all, system calculates the net requirements calculation. That is, if we are given the MPS output that we have to produce, say 100 units of finished goods, right? Then we come up with the calculation that in order to produce 100 units of finished goods, we need, say, if one finished good require 2 units of raw material, then for a particular raw material we will need 200 units of that particular raw material. That is the gross requirement of the raw material. And if we adjust the opening and closing stocks, available stocks, then the remaining production requirements, say 20 are already there in stock, the remaining 180 are to be produced. So this 180 is the net requirements planning. So whenever the word net requirement planning comes, it means it's adjusted for the available stock. Then after we come up with the 180 units have to be produced, then we decide in what lot size should we produce. Should the lot size be 1 so that all the 180 units are produced in one go, or should it be 2 so that there are 2 lots of 90, or there is 3 or 4, maybe the lot size are same, maybe the lot size are not same. So determination of the lot size is itself a functionality, a different aspect of planning, which we shall discuss in the next slide. Then we decide what's the procurement type. Is it something which needs to be procured from outside, or is it something which needs to be shipped from another plant of the same group, same company, or is it something which needs to be manufactured? So broadly there are 3 procurement types. One is the procurement from outside, one is the procurement from inside, and one is the production. Then we schedule, then okay, if we have to produce or if we have to procure, when to procure, right? And the final is bill of material exposure, that if this scheduling is not procurement, but if it's not purchasing, but it's because procurement is the umbrella term, right, for production and purchasing both. So let's be specific. If this scheduling is not for purchasing but for production, it means the item being scheduled is a semi-finished good, then eventually we need to plan for all the items of the bill of material as well of the semi-finished goods. So then we actually we explore the bill of material, so that say there are 4 materials in the bill of material in the semi-finished good, then we actually start planning for each one of them in the same formula, in the same logical steps. So again, a pictorial representation of net requirements planning, right? So say this is the gross requirement planning, right? This is the amount of sales order or something that we need, and in order to fulfill this demand, this is the amount of safety stock we already have, right? In order to produce this, we don't exactly produce this much, but we deduct this available stock from the combination of these two. We deduct the firmed orders or purchase requirement. It means, let's say this is 100 and this is 10, right? So we need a total of 110. Now if we already have 20, the remaining is 90. If firmed orders or purchase requirements, it means that if some confirmed purchase order, already executed purchase order are 20, then we again need 90 minus 20, which is 70. And if the firm receives the goods under receipt, the goods in transit which are to be received are 30, then we actually need 70 minus 30. So the independent requirement is actually 40, which is the net requirement is actually 40, for which the system will actually propose the procurement proposal. By procurement proposal means the system actually proposes either a production order or a purchase order. If it is the raw material to be procured from outside, it becomes the purchase order. If it is a semi-finished goods to be produced inside, then this becomes the production order. Again, so very briefly discussing the lot sizing, 3 possible, and there are others as well. Stated lot size means the lot sizing, the third step in the MRP, is actually based on fixed values in the material master. So maybe the lot size is fixed, or there is a lot size is fixed in the material master data, then actually whatever requirement comes in has to be divided into those fixed lot size. It can be periodic. It means group net requirements together from multiple periods, right? So maybe if we need there are three different net requirements within a week, then and if the lot sizing is actually based on weekly lots, then actually we sum up the 3 requirements into a 1 lot and then purchase or produce that lot. And the third one is the optimum. The third of the given ones is the optimum, which calculates the optimum lot size for several periods of net requirements based on some parameters. So we don't discuss them in detail because this is not part of the curriculum we are discussing. Procurement type, as we just discussed, it can be either a purchase order or it can be a purchase requisition. It's depend on us whether we configure the system to actually recommend the purchase requisition or purchase order or combination of both, or it can be schedule lines in case of long-term agreement with the supplier. Just a trigger order goes to the supplier. Or in the case of internal procurement, it may be planned order. Planned order means which is eventually it is either converted into production order or converted into process order. Process order is for the process industries and production order is for the normally discrete manufacturing industries. So a little bit concept of the backward scheduling that we studied in the material master as well. So if this is in the make to order scenario, say this is the required date, and this much amount is actually required to manufacture the finished goods, then according to the backward scheduling we know that at this point we actually need to have the final assembly. So the final assembly should be ready by here. So final assembly, if takes 3 or 4 days, it should start over this point, and all the other parts needs to be ready by this point. So these parts, raw materials and components, need to be purchased at least at this point, or maybe if some semi-finished goods is also there, so it should be procured up to this point so that the production can start in such a way so that it completes by the required time. Now, apart from these planning, the entire planning that we discussed, which is based on either forecast or customer sales order, which is known as the material requirements planning, there is another option which we discussed in class as well, which is a consumption based planning, which is a simpler option, right? So consumption based planning is something when we don't actually forecast the requirement. Our production is, or procurement is, not based on any forecast, it's not based on sales order, it's just based on the inventory levels. So as soon as the inventory level touches a specific minimum, generally we actually start production or purchasing of the items again. So this is a sort of consumption based planning. There are various consumption based planning: reorder point planning, strategy delivered by SAP, forecast based planning, and replenishment based planning. So these are different strategies for different sort of combination of different configuration options, and since these are out of the curriculum, so I'm not discussing the details of these. So a very bird eye view of the consumption based planning is that you would have studied in the operation management course as well, that stock starts falling when the goods are getting consumed. So when the inventory actually hits this level, we actually place an order. And when we place an order, this is the lead time during which the goods are further consumed, and this is the point where we actually receive the goods, and this is the safety stock, because the goods stock is for any extraordinary requirements. So as soon as we receive the goods, the stock jumps up, and then again the cycle starts, the consumption starts, again the reorder point is hit, and we place an order. So this is the point where we place an order, and this is the lead time requirements. And this is actually the lot size up to which our stock is restored. So a very bird eye view again of the entire MRP cycle. Output of MRP, we discussed MRP or even the MPS eventually results in planned order, and planned order is eventually converted into either if it is the external procurement, it is converted into purchase requisition or purchase order or schedule lines. Schedule lines in the case of long-term requirements, long-term contract with the supplier, and purchase requisition and purchase order are the actually steps within the material management cycle, as we already know. And if it is the in-house production, then it is converted into either a production order or a process order, as we discussed. So then we start in the next slide, we start the execution of the manufacturing cycle. So watch the next one. Thank you.